I came from a family of considerable means. We lived in a multitude of places growing up. I never really settled down until I was around 13 or 14. In retrospect, California wasn't the worst place to come of age, but I hated every second of it. The word alone still leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. I don't even have a justifiable reason, really. Just a lot of bad memories there, most of which were self-inflicted. I had no friends, no goals, no ambition, no life. My parents, God bless them, tried everything to make me happy. I saw therapists, counselors, alternative doctors. They tried getting me into sports, art, music, theater, even more academic fields. How they thought that was a good fit is beyond me, as I barely did my homework, if ever. But I digress. Instead, I spent a lot of my teenage years in a chemically induced coma. I did everything. Drank, smoked weed, took Xanax, morphine, dropped acid, LSD, DMT, MDMA, anything that would turn me into a vegetable, really. Just so that I wouldn't have to deal with the disappointment from my parents and teachers. I know they loved me. I know it hurt them to see me like this. At the time, it was just easier not to care than to do something about it. Sometimes whenever I ran out of pain-numbing stimulants, I'd just take a lighter and play a game of chicken with my skin. See how long it would take before I couldn't take the pain anymore. I got better at withstanding it over time. My other favorite pastime was floating in my backyard pool. I liked to pretend that my body was a rotting corpse and that I was achieving nirvana, that my soul was leaving my body and ascending into whatever afterlife may exist. The cool water soothed my burns, the burns on my arms and legs, the pain of being alive. At first, my parents took this as a sign that I was getting better. They were about to sign me up for a swim team and everything, much to my obvious extreme disinterest. But eventually, they were just happy to see me get out of my room every once in a while, almost like they had come to terms with my inevitable downfall. I tried to ignore their half-hearted smiles, their clenched fists, the attempts at masking their immense grief and frustration. It got harder and harder to avoid caring about what they thought, to avoid seeing everyone around me succeeding in life while I was still a failure in every regard. And thus the dosage increased. One night, while my parents were out, I decided to clean out my closet. Everything I had stashed, everything I had saved, I took. I didn't even know if I actually wanted to die or not. I just stopped caring about the consequences and accepted death as a possibility. I also figured if I was going to die anyway, I'd rather die doing the thing that I loved the most, bathing in the pool. How fucking pathetic is that? I tried floating face down for a bit, but I couldn't relax that way, and I was far too impatient to drown myself. I was in that drowsy state between consciousness and sleep. As expected, I retreated into old habits and stared lazily up at the night sky. It was too dark for me to make out any stars, and with nothing to see, I closed my eyes and let myself feel the drug-induced sensations, suspended in a separate plane of existence. The pool felt like my own personal sensory deprivation chamber. I could feel myself drifting into a comfortable limbo. The pool lights beaming up at me as though I were floating on the vapors that would become the clouds that would lift me beyond this plane of existence. I could transcend. I could finally be free. Heaven turned out to be a hospital bed in Santa Monica. At first, mistaking the bright lights shining directly onto my heavy eyes for that of a creator's warm embrace. I awoke to a swarm of doctors surrounding me, frantically trying to figure out the cause of my unconsciousness, one of them shining another tiny little flashlight into my eye. I couldn't feel my fingertips or toes. I could barely move my arms. My skin and hair were dry and brittle. Is this what heaven is like? It's much more sterile and chaotic than I had pictured. I don't remember much aside from those fleeting and uncomfortable moments. The most uncomfortable of such moments being when they finally told me what was going on. There had been a break-in at my house. My parents were gunned down upon return home. Apparently, in the dark of the night, the intruders mistakenly assumed that I had been hit in the crossfire, and as I was lying down in the pool unconscious, when it happened, they ran off. The police arrived just in time to find the bodies, but not the perpetrators. They got away with it since nobody was around to see their faces, or at the very least, nobody came forward with a description. It's funny, you know, I'd spent years of my life trying to become permanently numb. Turns out I had been chasing a bad trip this whole time. I couldn't feel my face or my fingers or toes, but I could feel my heart sink to the pit of my stomach. I retched in agony as if to expel a grief from the depths of my very being. I couldn't handle the loss. I couldn't handle the guilt. All I remember is looking into the mirror and remarking upon the redness and wetness of my face. After that, I remember desperately wanting to claw it off of me. This couldn't be real. I couldn't let this be real. I just couldn't. That was 15 years ago. My pill-popping, pool-lounging nihilism days are behind me. Far behind me, thank God. I've since turned to Jesus to fill the hole inside of me, only made wider by the 2 gunshots that ruined my life. My privileged upper-middle-class family fortune would have left me solid for the rest of my days. I could have been a drug-addicted Bruce Wayne if I really wanted to, but I knew I couldn't do that anymore. The first thing I did was sell the house and move to the East Coast to run away from my memories. I wish I could say I stopped doing drugs entirely after that event, but I unfortunately can't say that. I had a rough couple of years afterwards, including a few actual suicide attempts. I eventually found a therapist, joined a support group, got clean, found Jesus, yada yada, you know, the whole drill. I started volunteering at homeless shelters, working part-time, doing anything I could to get my mind off of everything and hopefully give back. Give back the love that I had and that I took for granted and that I eventually lost. I don't swim anymore. I don't touch water whenever I can. I drink water, but I don't take baths. I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable if the water is pooling under me. I can't. But sometimes, only sometimes, I think about getting into that ocean, getting into the ocean, the abyss, the ultimate abyss that I, for some reason, never took advantage of when I was living in California, and eventually sinking. I don't think I'll join my parents. They won't be at any altitude below however far down the ocean goes, but that's where I deserve to be. Deep down, I know that if I ever get into a pool again, I'm going to sink.